Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My friends, today we are watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 9, Dagger of the Mind. I cannot wait. You know, a couple titles usually ping for you just when you read them, and you think, this has potential. I think Dagger of the Mind has potential. Let's see, though, if exactly, if Dagger of the Mind can live up to the lofty expectations of title alone. But my friends, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ringy-ding-ding that bell for notifications, and you too will be alerted. Anytime we go live with any Star Trek or science fiction related material, you'll be notified and can join us. And of course, if you'd like those adventures early or in the full-length, longer format, the link to our Patreon is in the description. That's where you will find them, along with a lot of exclusives, a lot of 80s cartoons. Just started Robotech and Mask and a bunch of things like that. So if you have a hankering for the 80s and cartoons and you can put up with me, we'll see you over there. But my friends, all that is then, and now there's nothing to it but to do it. So let's prepare to engage maximum warp reaction. And for Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 9, Dagger of the Mind, away we go. Look at that beauty! Drugs? That is a absolute shit ton of drugs.
Ready to beam down.
And it said Tantalus Penal Colony. I'm already liking the sounds of that. By the way, hell of a name for a penal colony. Because isn't Tantalus the Greek hero, or who was like, if he would reach up for food, it would pull away. If he'd lean down to drink, it would recede. Tantalizing.
Having trouble, gentlemen?
I just don't understand the problem, sir.
You're beaming cargo down to a penal colony, Mr. Berkeley.
Berkeley.
Request opening in your force field for beaming down of cargo.
Enterprise, affirmative. Our security cover is now open.
That would suck to be Berkeley. Shit. I forgot to tell him to ask him to lower the shields.
Any incoming cargo?
Just one item, sir. Some research material bound for the Central Bureau of Penology, Stockholm.
Penology? Yeah, I'd definitely be checking that for a person. Kirk rolls in just to shade, and then he's out. I knew it. I mean, come on now. Oh, that's awesome. They had him in a gas mask, though. I guess the atmosphere's thin down there. So this guy's obviously a criminal, and he knows enough about the situation to anticipate being aboard this. We'll see how bad a criminal he is, whether or not he takes out this guy as yet unnamed. And I have a feeling, because he's wearing red, he'll never get a name, or he'll get one posthumously. Lord. Was that an unconscious chop or a you're dead chop? All right, we're in the credits, so let's recap what we have now that we have a chance while James T tells us what space is all about. Okay, so it looks like we have a prison break, which that's not on my bingo card. That's something we haven't seen yet, which is very interesting. I can't remember. To be very honest, I was thinking about it, and with the exception of Rorapente, the Klingon penal moon from, what was it, Undiscovered Country? Or Final Frontier? I forget which one it was, where he and Bones get sent to the Klingon penal colony. Pretty sure it's Undiscovered Country. I don't remember there being prisons. I don't remember them talking about prisons or detention centers or penal colonies. What does the Federation do with its prisoners? That's an interesting question. I have no idea. Are they even considered prisoners or criminals?
A cage is a cage, Jim.
You're behind the time.
A cage is a cage.
Like resort colonies now.
Message, Captain.
Really? Okay, this is interesting to me.
We are unable to locate one of our inmates. This is a potentially violent case.
So is this poor kid dead? Don't mind me, I'm just covered in sweat and murder.
Enterprise acknowledging, stand by.
All of the red shirts around are terribly frightened, as they should be.
Captain, Section C, Deck 14, reporting trouble. Someone in engineering uniform.
Security control, this is the bridge. Come in.
I like how Spock has a comm too, so he can monitor as well. That's really neat. Watch out for that chop. That kid had a very low blood oxygen level. His neck was squeezed for a second.
Enterprise to Tantalus Colony.
Tantalus Colony, Adams here.
That's Dr. Adams he was talking about.
It appears we may have an inmate of yours aboard the ship.
Transporter crewman found unconscious, Captain. Cargo case open and empty.
Make that definite, Doctor.
Thank goodness.
We'll keep you posted, Doctor. Kirk out.
Nice. Armed crew on bridge. So that is condition 3. Trying to get all these right. Condition 3, armed person on bridge.
And of course, your people found an answer. We disposed of emotion, Doctor. Where there's no emotion,
There's no violent
there's
crime.
no motive for violence.
This guy with his chops.
Which one of you is the captain?
I'm Captain Kirk.
He hasn't been killing. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for a second. He's going to like request asylum.
Van Gelder.
Van Gelder. Cool name.
I want asylum.
I knew it!
Gunpoint?
Hand over your gun.
Your word that you won't take me back there to Tantalus.
Yeah, Spock's making his move. I'm sure the helmsman appreciated the phaser being directed at the back of his head by Kirk's movements. Captain, what are you doing? Captain, what are you doing?
No. No, I'm not going back. I'll disable your vessel first.
Disable the vessel? How are you going to do that, bud? Oh! Combo move.
Head back for Tantalus Colony.
See Kirk? Look at that beauty. Not Kirk. I mean, Kirk's a beauty, but look at that beauty.
Claim one thing, then he seemed to forget, and then he'd start to claim something else.
Remember those big things of drugs they were sending down?
I'd sure like to study this one, Jim.
Okay, Leonard, let's...
My name is... Simon
Simon now.
Van Gelder,
Oh, okay, Simon's his first name, Van Gelder. Can't say his name.
director at the Tantalus Colony.
He's the director of the Tantalus Colony. I think Dr. Adams is taking over there. This guy's to be believed. This guy's doing a good job. He's putting in work for that shit.
They've erased it.
Erased.
Edited.
Well, they can't erase that he would have been the director of the colony. That would be...
But I won't forget! I won't forget! You're so blind ignorant.
This guy. Here we go, buddy.
You're here! I'm not going! No! No! No!
You gotta love that. You've gotta love so much energy in that. That guy had to take a nap after that. Hell of a scene.
Estimating arrival at Tantalus.
57 minutes, 30 seconds, Captain.
It's like he knew. It's like he knew that's the question.
On Dr. Simon Van Gelder.
Dr. Van Gelder?
Dr. Van Gelder, Captain. No mistake. There's a full ID tape on him.
Committed to Tantalus Colony when?
Wasn't committed.
Signed there 6 months ago.
Here we go. Oh, already the game's afoot. I'm liking this shit.
This is Captain Kirk. I'd like to speak to Dr. Adams.
Stand by, Enterprise.
Adams had to know this call was coming. Yep.
Dr. Adams, regarding your escaped man,
Is Dr. Van Gelder all right? And your people? No injuries?
no casualties, sir.
He switched it over from an inmate to Dr. Van Gelder.
Van Gelder felt he hadn't the moral right to expose another man to something he hadn't tried on his own person.
Oh, it's plausible.
That doesn't quite ring true.
Was he a forced volunteer?
I can't explain it, but the more I study that
You
patient...
don't believe him and you can't explain it.
He's going with his gut.
Jim, listen. Gentlemen, I suggest you ask Dr. Adams if he wants Van Gelder returned.
Why, too? Because if he was hurt in an accident or did this to himself, then they could easily take him to better medical facilities, which would...
Regarding Van Gelder,
Yes, Captain. May I inquire about your patrol destinations? Are you passing near any hospital facilities superior to ours?
Man, that makes sense.
thank you, Doctor. I'll take it up with the ship's surgeon. Stand by.
Oh,
I'm required to enter any reasonable doubts into my medical law.
Yep.
That requires you to answer in your law.
Oh, shit. Throwing the gauntlet down.
Sorry, Jim.
It's a log off. Spock's like, oh, I got nothing on that one, Jim.
No need to apologize, Captain Kirk. In fact, I'd take it as a personal favor if you'd beam down and look into it yourself.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you realize we don't get too many visitors here. Oh, Captain, I would appreciate it if you could come down with a minimum staff.
We've heard this shit before.
Find me someone in your department with psychiatric and penology experience, if possible.
Penology. I've never heard that term before. So many cool things about this. In the background, whenever termination is ended, Uhura like closes the line. Just a little touch that's really cool. Other thing is this Doc Adams, he's playing this shit really well. Saying things that they wouldn't expect to ask, you know. Really, this guy might be a superior intellect.
Report, Doctor.
I like this.
Van Gelder's still violently agitated, Captain.
And you'd prefer to keep him here until I complete my investigation anyway?
I believe we should, Jim.
Jim.
Dr. Noel, standing by in the transporter room now.
Thank you, Doctor. Bridge out. Mr. Spock?
Nice. Okay, so Dr. Noel, Kirk, and Spock, the minimum staff. Shit.
Down.
Uh-oh, Jim.
Dr. Helen Noel, Captain.
Helen Noel.
We've met?
Have they? He doesn't act like they have. And this is the psychiatrist on Bones' staff.
Don't you remember? The science lab Christmas party?
Yes, I remember.
Oh.
Dropped
Yes,
in.
yes, I remember.
Problem, Captain?
I think it's a Christmas party. Her name's Noel.
Energize.
Energize.
Did you guys ask to take the shield down? Oh, cool setup.
Of course, Captain.
Wow.
Elevator. And going down quite a way.
I mean, you're in free fall, and this is not at all inappropriate. This is the first time I've seen Jim actually shook. Dr. Adams.
Hello, Captain Kirk.
I'm the villain this week.
I believe regulations call for me to check my weapon.
Oh, no, that won't be necessary in your case, Captain. Just keep it out of sight.
This guy's saying the right things.
I don't think you'll be able to get through the security screen, Captain. Just a second. Yeah, now try it.
Kirk to Enterprise, come in.
Enterprise. Spock here.
This guy's doing everything right. Is that Patch a hand holding a dove?
Alethe came to us for rehabilitation and stayed on as a therapist. And a very good one, too, I might add.
I love my work.
Tahiti is a magical place.
Yes. And now to the toast. You'll forgive us, Alethe. There you are, Captain.
You don't get any.
May we never find space so vast, planets so cold, heart and mind so empty that we cannot fill them with love and warmth.
Oh, this guy's got a playbook, everybody. Doc Adams has a playbook. He's either legit and is just the face behind some, I don't think he is. I think he's behind all this.
Since you brought me down here for advice, Captain,
One of the advantages of being a captain, Doctor, is being able to ask for advice without necessarily having to take it.
But
I think I'll have to award that round to the captain, Helen. You're fighting over your weight.
Ha 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 ha. We're not going to listen to you.
Neural neutralizer. Can you explain that, Dr. Van Gelder?
He's having such a hard time.
Room.
This guy's eyes, too. Holy shit.
Star. Control panel.
Oh, he's just anything he can see and just get a word out.
Right!
This room. What happens there?
Ah! Ah!
Oh, man. This poor guy. Come on, guys. You can figure this out. And this is going to end up killing him at some point.
tranquilizers are fine, Captain. But to continually pump chemicals into a person's bloodstream.
Exactly my point, Helen. Yes.
I'll just go ahead and interrupt you, though, before you make your point.
Beam neutralizing has been experimented with on Earth, Captain. I'm not acquainted with this particular style of equipment, but I can assure you that Dr. Adams has not created a chamber of horrors here.
Simon was a very stubborn man. No, he tried it alone and on full body. That's a pity.
Or he was in there and somebody cranked it to full volume.
Thank you.
This guy's into his work, Jim. You can't fault him for that.
Terrible pain. Growing more terrible as you fight to remember.
Oh, so that's what Van Gelding is going through. Or Van Gelding. Van Gelder.
You're with Dr. Adams now.
Affirmative.
I'd like you to beam up for a second, Jim, so we can have a conversation without Doc Adams listening in.
Yeah, Mr. Spock sounds like a very excellent second in command, Captain Kirk. Please tell him to go ahead and speak freely. I have to check in with a member of my staff anyway.
Thank you, Dr.
Excuse me.
God, Adams is saying all the right shit.
Van Gelder is extremely agitated, Captain, and warns that you're in danger.
He's suffering from neural synapse damage, as if his brain were short-circuited. It's no wonder he's having delusions.
Are they delusions, though?
When do you plan to beam back up, Captain?
I think we'll spend the night here, Mr. Spock.
Why?
No.
Simon is not a fan of that idea, Jim.
He must warn you, Captain. No. No.
Oh, he's a good man.
Warn you, Captain. Dr. Adams.
He can't get the memory out.
Adams will destroy.
Destroy how? What?
He's gonna die.
Death.
Oh, this poor guy, man. He is just fighting for every word. And according to the instructions that the neural neutralizer dude said, you know, or was giving to the guy in the chair, if you remember anything, even start, it's going to just get awful.
I must now use an ancient Vulcan technique to probe into Van Gelder's tortured mind.
Spock, if there's the slightest possibility, it might help. I've never used it on a human, Doctor.
Mind meld. Oh, shit.
Jim Kirk could be in real trouble. Will it work or not?
God, Leonard. For God's sakes, Leonard. You're always so pushy.
It could be dangerous. Do you understand?
Listen, Simon's...
You must.
Oh, this guy, man. How's he going to do it? Different touching technique, but still same principle. I love it. Because don't they do like pressure points on the face? That's what I saw in the movies anyway.
Your body floats.
Nimoy.
Open your mind.
It's my favorite Spock scene so far.
Our minds sharing the same thoughts.
My mind to your mind. Oh, I love that. Are you kidding? The origin of the mind meld, I guess. I don't think it's appeared before.
But if you'd simply state any doubts you have to Dr. Adams
And if he's
himself.
lying, he'll continue to lie, and I won't find out a thing. The only way I can be sure is to see that machine at work. Or is that too impractical and unscientific of me, Doctor? Well,
Coming.
what is our name? Who are we?
We are Simon Van Gelder.
Oh, that's amazing.
The neural neutralizer.
Look at this shot.
What did he do to us?
Look at that guy's stare. No blinking.
He can reshape any mind he chooses. He used it to erase our memories.
Wow.
Thoughts there.
His own thoughts.
He was surprised it took so much power. We fought him, remember?
We fought. Oh my God, this is great.
Our minds so blank, so open, that it
Love that shot.
like a sponge, needing thoughts.
This guy's killing it.
So lonely to be sitting there empty, wanting any word from him.
I like the intimacy of this. How close Spock is.
Agony to be empty. Empty.
Oh, he's feeling it. Spock's feeling it.
So empty.
Oh, the director of this episode, these shots, fantastic.
and will you be able to determine if that beam is harming me in the slightest?
Yes, Captain. I know my profession.
Helen's taking a lot of shit in this episode. A lot of talking over her and questions about her competency.
We'll try minimum intensity. A second or two.
And be like, oh, Minimum's like full power for something else.
Anytime you're ready, Doctor, just for a second or two.
He didn't even remember it.
Nothing happened.
Something happened. Your face went completely blank.
Try a harmless suggestion.
Please don't be kiss me. Please don't be kiss me.
You're hungry.
Okay, good. Thank God.
You know, when we finally get through this, I'd like to locate and raid a kitchen somewhere.
I put that suggestion in your mind, Captain.
Helen! The fuck are you talking about?
Remarkably effective for a device that Dr. Adams was going to abandon.
Yeah, considering...
At the Christmas party, we met, we danced, you talked about the stars. I suggest now that it happened in a different way. You swept me off my feet and carried me to your cabin.
Oh my God.
It would be different if you cared for me.
You want me to manufacture a lie? Wrap it up as a Christmas present for you?
This is very strange. This is the scene she's coming up with? What a great party. Oh,
I want there to be no doubts whatsoever in his mind.
oh, this ain't good. Oh, shit, this ain't good.
You're madly in love with Helen, Captain. You'd lie, cheat, steal for her, sacrifice your career, your reputation.
No, Doctor, no!
You feel it, Captain. You must have her or the pain grows worse.
Wow, this is fucked up.
For years you've loved her, Captain. For years.
For years, I've loved you.
You must continue to remember that, Captain.
What's super screwed up is if Helen has any, like, feelings for him, it'd be so tough to hear that.
You must take your phaser weapon and drop it on the floor.
He's gonna shoot that light. Shoot that light, Jim.
I'm...
What do you got, Jim? What do you got, Jim?
Drop it.
Damn it.
And now you're communicating. Drop it on the floor.
An excellent comment. Someone said, everybody they meet is like famous. And they always turn out to be super screwed up. I love it. Doc Adams, he's revolutionized jailing and prisoners. He's also batshit crazy. That blinding light sphincter. Wow. Holy shit.
Helen, for years I've loved you.
No.
Do you remember the pain? And then his voice? Remember?
Come on, Jim. There you go, Jim. Come on, fight, buddy. I mean, Van Gelder proved that you can do this. It just, woof.
Remember?
Bill Shatner. Uh-oh. We got crazy aggressive Bill. I remember the Christmas party. Oh, good. Nice. Good object work. That sucker's absolutely not stuck on there. This is just Die Hard size.
Have you had any training in hyperpower circuits?
No.
Mega voltage. Touch the wrong line and you're dead.
Get in there. I like her. I like her character quite a bit. I'm impressed by the vent set. I mean, how many hours did that take to set up?
You trust me completely.
Trust you.
This guy's good. The guy playing Adams is really good.
Gratifying. I'm so fortunate to have had a couple of excellent specimens to work with. I've learned a great deal.
Woo!
Woman doctor. She's gone, Dr. Adams.
Notify security once, Lethe.
Damn it, Lathy.
Where is Helen? And with what instruction?
Get fucked! Keep fighting, Jim. Now she's going up against like voltage that could fry her. Do you have any training? No. I love that answer. Again, the vent work. That's not the vent from Mary either, because that was higher off the ground. Lock that up. Safety first, in case something tries to break out of that area. If I was ever going to get a tattoo, I would get it of the hand holding the bird, just to see if anybody would ever get it, myself included, before I watched this episode.
Back in the chair, Eli, and find that girl.
Oh, your little light's not on anymore, is it, buddy? Touched the wrong wire. Isn't that what you said? Nice job. Boom! Nice job, Helen. Oh, wow. Deep fried asshole.
Get some security people and follow me down. Energized.
Spock's like, you guys go get some security. I'm going the fuck down there. It's time to show these fuckers what a Vulcan's all about. Spock is so badass. I know I keep saying it. Spock is so badass. There cannot be a single better member of Starfleet, a single better officer in Starfleet at this time than Spock. I will be taking no questions at this time. That is a statement of fact. Right now, everybody's in the comments going, no, there's not. It's Spock.
This is Spock. Force field has been eliminated.
Light them up. Oh, there we go. You're a competent doctor that cares for his patients. You're not a mad scientist.
Captain! Captain?
Helen kicked ass on that mission.
Darling, are you all right?
No, he still
Yes.
loves her. Oh, well.
Oh, this isn't right, Captain. Dr. Adams did this to you.
Dr. Adams.
Meanwhile, Dr. Adams is in there just getting lit up for no reason. Oh, man, are we going to actually have Red Shirt survive?
He's dead, Captain.
The machine was not high enough to kill.
But he was alone,
No one to tell him anything.
without even a tormentor for company.
I understand.
Also, he shot himself, so we should probably get out of here. Everybody's like, welp, look at that beauty. Job's done here. Now, can Van Gelder be, like, rehabbed? I love this episode. Such a good episode.
There was a message from Tantalus Colony, sir.
It was from Van Gelder. He thought you'd like to know the treatment room had been dismantled.
Van Gelder was able to recover, thank God.
It's hard to believe that a man could die of loneliness.
Bet you it's not hard for Jim to believe.
Not when you've sat in that room.
Yep.
Take us out of orbit, Mr. Spock. Ahead, warp factor 1.
Acknowledged, Captain. Warp factor 1.
There's our leave line. My friends, we just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 9, which I thought was a banger, Dagger of the Mind. The only thing left to do now, my friends, you guessed it, is to talk about it. All right, my friends, we just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 9, Dagger of the Mind. I thought this one was really good. Again, I think I like this one the most because of the unique nature of the mission. Very little, I mean, science of the mind, psychology is involved, but there was no galaxy phenomena, no, problem on a planet, no, this is all interpersonal stuff. And I love the idea that it was set in a prison, which is really, really cool. It's like at the very top of the episode, I was like, what do they do with their prisoners? I know that one of the comments that I received on YouTube said, well, in that time period, they view being a criminal as a psychological disorder, emotional disorder, something that needs that type of psychiatric treatment as opposed to incarceration, which I thought was incredibly interesting. I didn't know that. I thought that was very, very neat that that's the way that they approached crime. And you think too, because they talk about the pseudo-utopian society of the Federation and of, Earth at this time, after all of the wars and all of the, destruction, the rebirth was this civilization that knew better, basically. But what I liked about this, again, I didn't know anything about the prison system of the Federation, and whether or not this is something that kind of bleeds through and becomes canon going forward is one thing, but this is if anything, I'm looking at this as like an example. Here's an example of the current time period of what the prisons were like. And I love the idea that, there was they said at the top, there's like a spa-like quality to it. It's more of a retreat or a hospital or, someplace that you would go to, rehabilitate the criminal elements that are existing inside your mind. And then, we had Spock kind of come in with the Vulcans, with the removal of emotion, you remove violent crime, violence, that type of the desire to do that, which I thought was, again, exceptionally interesting. What I like, too, about all of this is the acting was superb. Superb acting by our guest stars, both Doc Adams and Simon. Really, really good job. My only, the thing that I didn't like about this episode that annoyed me to the point where I should mention it right now, and then this is really the only thing that kind of tripped me up in the episode, was the dismissal that the early conversations between Adams, Kirk, and Dr. Helen Noel, those like three-way conversations that were so dismissive of her, it was everything. She was getting cut off, or she was, oh, I give that one to the captain. Do you really? You give that one to the Okay, sure. We'll go with that. But, it's a sign of the times that it's always, oh, let the men speak. I just think that shit is so ridiculous, but whatever. I thought her character was very cool. I'd love to see her again. I don't know if we will. But I really like that character is very strong. They gave her an instant backstory too with the Christmas party, which, it's almost like you think of like the stereotypical office Christmas party where somebody gets too drunk and does something stupid. And, immediately, my mind went to like, oh my gosh, are they alluding to the fact that maybe something happened between the two of them? We find out later that there was nothing, inappropriate. They danced, which I think is very interesting because in that dancing, it shows us an element of Captain Kirk that we always see that he's very charismatic. He's very outgoing when it comes to his crew, but we never really see him socialize. You know what I mean? We never really see him. I'm not saying we've never seen it. I'm saying that we don't see it often. Honestly, I think the most that we've seen him like attempt to socialize was in Charlie X, when he was like desperately trying to mentor Charlie X, taking him to the gym and that type of stuff. And that's, again, hey, there is a feather in Charlie X's cap for, giving us a little bit more insight into Kirk. But with this one, I like that the truthful caveat that we were awarded from that memory that was provided by Helen, that they just danced, and it was a night, and it was a night that they both remembered. I'm unsure why Kirk viewed it negatively though. Like when they got on the transporter pad at the beginning, he was just like, oh shit, it's her. He acts like it was a one night stand. We find out later it was not. It was not a one night stand. It was just a dance. Maybe he didn't talk to her afterwards, or I think it would be very difficult for him anyway, because he established, and the canon of Star Trek established very early on that he's not allowed to fraternize with anybody. And it wasn't the enemy within. Was it the enemy within? Yeah, it was the enemy within, where he was like, have you ever seen my yeoman? She's beautiful, but I can't do anything because I'm the captain, that type of thing. So, Kirk's very aware of, he can't abuse his power, especially with people that are under his command. Now, whether or not he eventually does that, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's kind of ruled out kissing. Kissing seems to be okay, but I guess anything beyond that isn't. Now, again, when Kirk did kiss Helen, he was under like hypnotic suggestion from what Adams had put in there. So, that wasn't Kirk doing that. And I think it's interesting. I'm going to kind of start making a little tally too about the ways that they seem to be able to manufacture affection in this show for Kirk. And by that, I mean, I think of, not Enemy Within, but I think of What Are Little Girls Made Of? When the android, Andrea, was said, kiss Captain Kirk. And she did. And then Kirk kissed her back to create like that logic bomb that was part of like her emotional awakening. That whole thing was interesting, but it's like, how are we going to get this week's guest star to kiss Bill Shatner? And without making it like Bill is, I thought, in my, again, stereotypical observations of someone that has never watched the original series, I thought Kirk was like just a hound, that he was out there, anytime a woman appeared, he was like, hi, I'm Captain Kirk, captain of the Enterprise. And, just all over him in that respect. And he's not. I couldn't have been further from the truth so far. But they still figure out a way for him to kiss people, which is, that's fine with me. I just think it's interesting that they're kind of really working it, trying to figure it out. Yep, I liked it quite a bit. Really, really incredibly, up there with Gary Mitchell. Not Gary Mitchell's the top of the mountain, but they're up towards the top of the mountain with Doc Adams and with Simon Van Gelder. Really good acting. Van Gelder's actor, wow, a lot of energy went into that. A lot of energy went into just the getting out those lines, having to pantomime the fight, the internal psychological struggle to get these words out. And you find later that the closer you get to revealing the truth, the more painful it becomes. And to be able to do that, whoo. And you know what? To be able to do that, yes, to be able to convey that through acting, that's what you're doing, exceptional. Really, really good stuff. Now, with all that being said, another ensemble-esque, episode. It was definitely Kirk-centric, but we did have Bones. We did have Spock lending information. Uhura was there. I did not see Sulu. We had a little bit of an exchange there with, what was the guy's name at the Berkeley. Berkeley was our transporter chief, or the red shirt that was running transporter. I thought he was really funny, Sir, I'm having problems transporting this down. Did you know that we're transporting to a penal colony? Fuck, yes, I'll tell them to lower the shield. It's just that's something that definitely would happen. Okay, all that being said, we did have peripherals, but it was certainly a Kirk-centric one. Helen was down there too. It had a very familiar feel to what Our Little Girl's Made Of, where we had Christine Chapel down there with Kirk when the action occurred with the bad guys. And this one, we had Helen Noel down there. Really cool. It was a bit of a mimic off of the other one, but it was well done enough that I appreciated it. And I liked it quite a bit in how it was done. Having the situation on the penal colony was so unique that it was able to kind of overshadow the similarities between the two. But that leads me to my final comment on this episode. The mind meld. Holy shit. Everybody, that was a fucking scene. The movement of the camera, which again, you're talking about these huge, bulky ass cameras that they had back then. So any of those intimate shots, I always think that, if we had a third eye camera on that, you've got this huge camera, right in the face of the actors. And the movement of that camera is, very difficult, especially to make it fluid, to make it organic. With all that being said, incredibly intimate shots of Nimoy over Simon. Simon's actor, eyes wide open, unblinking the entire time. The best part about it, other than the communal we, what were we doing? How did we fight? What did we see? Love that. It was the constant contact, whether, it's not the traditional mind meld that I'm used to anyway, but it was a constant physical contact that he was moving from pulse points to temples, to the side of the head, to the jaw. And it was that pan where Nimoy moved around the head of Simon. And, we had those shots that would come over and catch Nimoy's eyes and catch him staring off. And the shot of him behind with the eyes coming. Oh my God. Excellently shot, excellently acted, tense as hell. I even like the cutaway shots to Bones. Bones as our observer, our lone observer in this, whatever he sees, we see. And so Bones is sitting there what is this shit? He's a medicine man. He is somebody that lives and dies by the science. And he's looking at something that is very unscientific. And what I like the most about that is a reversal of the norm between those two. Normally, it is Leonard who is super emotional or super, by the gut, by the touchy-feely, by the anything you want to say that's the the gut version of the mind, the choices and the emotional output. This is how you get it done, Jim. This is where you'll do it. You gotta work it, Jim. And then Spock being the analytical, logical. No, this is how you do it. Everything was very common, scientific. And for that moment of observation, when we had Leonard looking at the situation between Simon and Spock and this movement, it was flipped because you had the man of science now being Bones. Bones looking at this like this shit shouldn't be working. What is not I know that he believes in it, obviously. He just watched it happen. But it would have to be so foreign to Leonard to look at that and be like, this isn't a scalpel, it's not a pill, it's not one of my techniques to get in and heal this man. This is magic. This is, telepathy. This is some type of material mental manipulation that I am unaware of. And that is so fascinating to me, where we had so expertly done with the tension of the scene, the acting of the scene, and even the standoff observations of McCoy, a reversal of normal polarities for Spock and McCoy. And I think it is those types of moments, that observation where McCoy's like, look at this guy cook. He's never going to admit it. He's never going to say, wow, Spock, you kicked some ass in it. That's not what Leonard's going to do. But Leonard saw it. Leonard was noted by it. He noted it. He was wowed by it. Perfect. Excellent scene. Excellent episode, in my point. Definitely top half of everything I've watched so far. 10 episodes in now, counting the cage. And so this is definitely in the top 5 of those episodes for me. I'm going to make a final list at some point, probably halfway through the season, right around 15. I'll make kind of a list that I refer to often, or refer to as like my concrete list. But right now, I'm definitely putting it in that top half. It's not where No Man Has Gone Before. That's my cream of the crop, my S tier. It's up there though. I'm not sure it beats out Naked Time. Oh, and Naked Time was when Kirk was talking about, Naked Time was when Kirk was talking about the ship and have you seen my yeoman's legs? Not Enemy Within. So anyway, it was, just really, really great episodes. I like Miri a whole lot too. We're just getting very different episodes, and that's the beauty of, somebody said it to me before very early on in my exploration. Somebody said, there isn't a writer's room for Star Trek. There's a writer for each episode, maybe 2 if they, Roddenberry has to come in and do something, or they have to like adjust on the fly. I've noticed that there might be 2 people. There's not a writer's room. And therefore we don't get, well, I mean, there's good and bad from not having a writer's room, but I'm just going to stick with the good for right now. The good is we're getting very different themes, very different places, very different atmospheres and construction of episodes. And we're surprisingly, we're learning very complimentary things about the characters, where we're not doubling up on information, or, we're not hearing the origin story of a character over and over again. These writers are, I guess, familiar enough with their other contemporaries' work that they're able to augment it and make sure they reinforce things that have already come to pass. Great stuff. I'm going to give that to Gene Roddenberry and Gene Kuhn, probably. They were probably the ones that kind of made sure to remind different writers that this had already happened and that had already happened. I'm assuming they're probably like continuity control at this point. Anyway, my friends, fantastic stuff. If you could do me a favor, and if you stuck with me this long, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ringy ding ding that bell for notifications, and you too will be alerted the next time we go live here on YouTube with any of our Star Trek or science fiction related material. But my friends, that was then, and this is now. Now it is time for a little Q&A. Greetings, mon capitains, and welcome to another installment of Q&A. Friends, this is where, after I recently watched an episode of the original series, I like to go back in a non-spoilery fashion and figure out some of the ins and outs of the episode and kind of start to get a feel for how these episodes are constructed, what to expect behind the scenes, and again, reveal some interesting tidbits that I otherwise wouldn't know. So my friends, what I thought I'd do too now that we're 10 episodes into the original series, we have a good kind of cross-section here to in which to kind of like look at and observe and explore. And so I wanted to make a list of all of our writers and all of our directors to see and note when they kind of come back around again, if they build off of prior writing, if they build off of prior, directing or shots, or we can begin to see sort of like their fingerprints on each of these episodes in which they contribute. So we have actually had, in our airing order, we've actually had a repeat director so far, and that was Mark Daniels, who did both The Man Trap and The Naked Time, both very solid episodes. I prefer The Naked Time a little bit more than The Man Trap, but that's no disrespect. I really enjoyed Man Trap. But these last two episodes, we've had Miri and we've had Dagger of the Mind. Each of these have been directed by Vincent McEvedy, who I've mentioned a couple times actually during reactions. Vincent has been responsible for two of the more memorable shots, in my opinion, of the entire series to date for me, through 10 episodes, including the pilot. McEvedy in Miri is, I'm going to give him credit for a couple of those interior exterior shots we talked about, the little hand that reached up and wiped the circle clean on the dirty window, and that framed Spock outside, and then Spock came all the way from the outside to the dirty window, or the clean mark in the dirty window, and looked in, all maintaining the same framed shot. Fantastic stuff. And then now in Dagger of the Mind, we had that incredibly well staged, incredibly well shot mind meld scene between Spock and Van Gelder. Just a really intimate, really tense, a very, very profound use of camera movement, and with the acting and with Van Gelder's, open-eyed, unblinking stare. The entire thing was so well done. Now, it's difficult for me to give full credit to Vincent McEvedy. I'm going to go ahead and give him credit for both of those shots. But, Jerry Finnerman is sort of he is the cinematographer for Star Trek. He's credited on all of the episodes so far as being the cinematographer. And I don't want to discredit his contributions. He may have come up with those shots. He may have at least helped or, staged and everything. So I want to mention him as well. The only thing that makes me think that he didn't have, let's say he didn't have final say over the shots, or he didn't, kind of present these shots as possibilities, is that we haven't seen anything sort of similar to that in the other, the non-Vincent McEvedy episodes. So for now, I'm giving the majority of the credit to Vincent McEvedy, and but I'm also making sure to mention Jerry Finnerman, because I don't want to discredit something. He had a lot to do with the show, the colored gels that we had talked about before, the transporter effect. He had his fingerprints on a lot of the mainstays of the series. So if he did hold kind of sway with those shots, I give him credit there as well. And again, in the future, if I find out that it really was his influence that did everything, then I'll make sure and correct myself. But right now, I want to make sure and talk about Vincent McEvedy. So let's look. I've been very, very impressed with those shots in the episodes that he's directed. So I'm looking forward in the future to see if we have a continuation of this theme, a continuation of these not risky shots, but taking time, taking the effort to put into these shots. Good stuff, my friends. Okay, so the next thing I want to bring up, and I'm more of a uniform format to Q&A, we have our writers and directors segment. Now we have our guest stars segment. And briefly, whenever we were doing the reaction for Dagger of the Mind, when the scenes with Simon Van Gelder, who was, just struggling to get those words out, and it was again, doing something like that is one thing. Conveying it to an audience that there is a struggle, an internal pain, is something else entirely. And I believe he did a fantastic job. The actor's name is Morgan Woodward. And I think that's awesome because it seems that we get really great guest stars that have an element of wood in their names, whether it's Gary Lockwood or now Morgan Woodward. If we hear wood, we're already on the right track, I guess. But anyway, what he said was, and I thought this was so profound, when he got done, when he rapped his Simon Van Gelder character, he said that he went home and rested for 4 days. Dude, I believe it, because that was the energy output in those scenes off the chart. Great stuff there. Okay, now what I want to talk about is we've had our writers and directors segment, we've had our guest star segment. Now let's have our cast segment. What intricacies or interesting bits kind of pop up with the core cast? Two of them in particular for this episode. At the beginning, we saw Berkeley, the transporter, the red shirt transporter operator, have a bit of a snafu where he forgot to call down and ask the defensive screens be lowered on the penal colony, which had that little rub and shade thrown by Kirk at one point. That role was actually supposed to be Scotty's, which makes sense because we've seen Scotty at the transporter controls quite a bit. But James Doohan was slated to make $895 for his appearance, and thus he was replaced with a lesser paid, lesser known actor, the one that played Berkeley. Obviously, I don't like that. You're dealing with somebody's livelihood here, and to my knowledge, at this time, whenever you signed a contract to be on a serialized show like Star Trek, you were greatly limited from the other things that you could do. You could not be on another series, unless, of course, they could have different contracts, but this is usually how it works. You could not be on another series. If you did any kind of commercial work, television commercial work, it had to be pre-approved. It couldn't be anything that was in direct contrast to the sponsors of your show. The only thing that was really open to you was the stage. If you still wanted to do theater, you could go to, do theater in your off time. But that was very difficult because theater is very intensive, performing every night or a very set schedule. And you could be called into work on a day in which you were supposed to perform. So obviously that's a strange avenue to have still open to you. So, long story longer, this is them basically cutting into Doohan's livelihood. He was very limited in what he could make unless he had a special contract, which I doubt he did. And they called him off of work. And I don't, particularly like that. And I'll tell you why, too, because they said it was a cost-saving measure, but we'll talk about that in a second. Now, the second cast note that I wanted to bring up was the role of Helen Noel. Dr. Helen Noel was actually supposed to be played by, or there wasn't supposed to be a Dr. Helen Noel. It was supposed to be Janice Rand, Grace Lee Whitney's character. However, production did not want to give the appearance of a developing relationship between Rand and Kirk. And, we've had a lot of that recently, especially with, Miri, just a lot of mentions of there being a possibility of some type of unspoken relationship between the two of them, spoken in certain instances, but, sort of like when everybody's in their right state of mind, unspoken. In addition to that, apparently Rand or Grace Lee Whitney was having a lot of problems backstage with people or in the production with people, which I can only assume was not great. And this was eventually going to lead to her being outed from the show and fired or removed or whatever it is she ultimately ends up being. I don't want to ruin anything for myself by kind of looking forward for that story. So it looks like, Janice Rand's on the way out, which is a big loss. I think the character is very important and has proven that. Whether it be as a romantic possible lead for Kirk, I think that's the least of which she had to offer. But I do think that her presence really helped the audience understand a couple things. Acting sort of like our guide, very helpful in sort of like away missions and things like that. But that is what it is. And that leads me to the next point, which my next point is production and the shots associated with it. And we just talked about, James Doohan being cut for money. However, there was an argument between Gene Roddenberry and the powers that be, not him, that to save money, they should have Helen Noel and Kirk beam directly down into the facility, down into Dr. Adams's office. Gene would hear nothing of it. He wanted them to beam to the surface and then take an elevator down, which obviously includes an additional shot, an additional time frame, an additional location in which to place everything. They ended up kind of saving money a bit by using an old matte painting from Where No Man Has Gone Before and kind of covering up some of the towers. But again, this was an expensive shot in that it definitely cost more than $895. And to me, I would think, it would be best to eliminate that shot. I like the shot, but it's certainly not something that, carries through for, the mind meld shot was much better, obviously, and, I presumably didn't cost nearly as much. However, Gene Roddenberry wanted it, so they got it, and, whether it was at the expense of having Scotty in this episode, or it doesn't know. I mean, but the shot was taken and Scotty was removed. Take that for what you will, my friends. And finally, one of the things that I always love to talk about is syndication. What was cut for syndication? I always find this interesting because, one, for syndication, if an affiliate came forward and said, hey, I need something that's 49 minutes, then, Desilu and NBC would come up with, or, they would give them a cut of the episode that was to their requirements. So what did they cut? What were the things they needed to cut? And here's the thing that I thought initially when I read it, I thought, why would you cut that? And then when it was explained, I realized, oh, right, this is syndication. These are reruns that are coming out. The scene that was cut was a log by Spock where he talks about the mind meld. And I thought, my God, why would you cut that? This is the first time we've seen a mind meld. No one would know what he was doing. Well, it's because after this, they figure the mind meld became so popular and so ingrained as an element of Spock. By the time like true syndication rolled around in the 70s and I guess into the 80s, everyone knew what the mind meld was. So that was the easiest thing for them to cut. And a bonus here at the very end, because I thought this was absolutely fantastic. Initially, there was no, idea of what a mind meld was going to be, or, a lot of this came up from Leonard Nimoy, bringing this forward. Initially, Spock was going to hypnotize Simon Van Gelder and see if he could, hypnotically calm him down and get the information that they needed. And they realized that wasn't a skill that they wanted Spock to have in the future. Because that would create a sort of a snafu, I guess, for some of the things they had in mind for future episodes. If Spock possessed this ability to not easily, but, just hypnotize somebody if they needed it, then that opens things up. But if he has this kind of Vulcan technique that is sort of taboo to just openly use, it's something he couldn't just spam, he couldn't just use it all the time. This would provide an element of mystery both to the Vulcan culture, and it would also give them a way out so they didn't, have this skill set that was more readily acceptable maybe than the mind meld in the utility belt of Spock. And also the thing that I thought was great is somebody, I don't want to credit anybody in particular for saying this because it was kind of a random comment that was thrown into my research, but this is multiple people said somebody on set was very scared that if they went with true had Spock actually doing hypnosis, that somebody at home might become hypnotized. Love it, my friends. Love it, love it, love it. So, thus ends another installment of Q&A. So, mon capitaines, until we meet again, Vulcan roll.